Hey everyone, welcome back to Bloodborne. So this is part 28, which means that we are nearing the end of this. We only have about 6 more episodes to go, and it's not going to be too long before we take on Orphan of Kos. And then of course we're going to take on Lawrence as well, and then the rest of the Chalice dungeons, which I believe are going to come after those guys. And of course, we're going to fight the Moon Presence as well, since we still have that left. Now, I've decided that after editing and going through a lot of these episodes, I was not really happy with the way that I just sort of ran through some of the areas in the DLC. Like in the first part of the Hunter's Nightmare, where I could have gone in and got the Gatling gun and fought the blood-starved beast that was living in there. I feel like I just kind of skipped a whole lot of that. So I'm thinking that after this playthrough is completely done and put up on YouTube, I'll give it about another couple of weeks, I think, and I'm going to go through the DLC again in New Game Plus. Not only because it's what I want to do anyways, because I love this DLC and I love fighting the bosses within it, but I really want to explore the areas that I didn't explore the first time around. I also didn't go into the well that is in the middle of this level to get the Rakuyo, and I really wish that I had actually done that before we got to the end. But like I said before, I just kind of forgot about that and didn't really think about going back into there once we finished. And let's face it, I just want to keep playing Bloodborne because I absolutely love this game. And being as this channel was kind of founded on me playing through Bloodborne, I just want to keep continuing that and continue going through Chalice dungeons that I haven't explored and coming up with new ways to play the game, maybe doing challenge runs and stuff like that, and continuing to actually get better at it. I've actually been considering whether or not I should try to do a Blood Level 4 run, because I've never done that. And I really think it would be interesting to try, given my playstyle, because as you can tell from watching me fight bosses, I definitely do not mind taking hits. I do not mind running out of blood vials if I have to use all of my blood vials to get through a boss fight. I generally just find it more fun to play the game that way. So I'm not gonna go for anything like a no-hit run or whatever, because I think those are impressive, but stuff like that really just isn't for me. Unless I am doing something like the Chalice dungeons that are cursed and you just have absolutely no health and only die in one hit because of that. And as you can see, got my ass handed to me by one of these shark giants there. And one of the reasons that I'm kind of just talking about a bunch of other random crap right now is because all I'm doing here is trying to fight this shark giant. He's the variation with the anchor. And I think I said in the last episode that their parry windows were pretty much the same. And I think that's kind of true, but they might be a little bit tighter than the variation that I fought before. At least it kind of seemed like it to me when I was fighting these guys. So my apologies if I am giving wrong information on that. But in general, you can parry the same kinds of attacks. Like, specifically that one, although I didn't get the visceral on him. The main difference with this guy is he just has a whole lot more range. So you have to back up a little bit quicker and put more space between you and him, just so that you don't get hit by that anchor. And I was trying to see how much damage the Accursed Brew would actually do, and it's doing some pretty significant damage to him, but not enough for me to just want to stand here and kite him around this tree and try to, throw Accursed Brew at him the entire time. that particular dive attack that he does seems to be a whole lot more aggressive and a whole lot longer than the dive attack that the other one does. And he's actually about to kill me. Yeah, right there. And he's got like a just golf swing type thing that he did there. I don't last very long in this one. He really gets me good in this one here. I haven't mentioned the sounds that these guys make, but the sounds that they make are absolutely terrifying to me. Just that gurgling, like, roar thing. It's just really, really, really unsettling. Like most of the roars and screams in this game. That was one of the things that I really, really liked most about this game in general, is just the sound design is so good. And I know I talked about the soundtrack a whole lot. I've talked about the soundtrack in a bunch of my Bloodborne videos from what I can remember. But other than the soundtracks, the sound design throughout the entire game is really great. Anytime your weapon hits an enemy, it just sounds like what it would sound like if you took a saw and ripped it through flesh. I mean, it is just loud and visceral and just extremely well done. And the way that when you are fighting enemies and killing them, the way that they scream out, I mean, they really, really paid attention to that kind of stuff. And that's one of the best things about this game, for one, but just FromSoft in general, is the things that they pay attention to. You know, there are other game companies, of course, you know, that put tons and tons of attention into the sound design. I know a lot of first-person shooters really like to make sure that their guns sound as realistic as possible, things like that. But Bloodborne really, really goes out of its way, and FromSoft in general really, really goes out of its way to make sure that every hit and everything that goes on sounds like what it's supposed to sound like. And I don't know how many people actually really, really pay attention to that kind of stuff. Like, that is one of the things that I like to pay attention to most in a lot of the games that I play, especially with Bloodborne and especially with the Dark Souls series in general. So now that I am done completely gushing and fanboying over sounds in the game, we're gonna let this guy try to get through the door here, and I'm just gonna throw shit at him. I was actually kind of trying to see if he would eventually clip through the door, and I figured I would take this time to actually try to parry some of his attacks to see if I could, you know, just maybe learn some of the timings. And I either just did not get the timing correct on a lot of these, or maybe for some reason you can't parry him while he's clipped through the door. Either way, I completely forgot that I had done this until I started editing this video. So I just thought it was kind of funny. So I decided to just leave it in here and not, you know, fast forward through it or anything like that. It actually looks like, in one or two instances, like he is about to actually come through the door in the wall there. And I'm actually kind of curious when you look at Simon, who's laying to the left there. You can see his clothing kind of like reacting to what's going on with the shark giant as he's trying to attack me. And as I was watching this, I was kind of curious if Simon can actually be killed and you don't actually get to speak to him here. Like, if he can be killed while he's on the ground or something like that. And I didn't try it. because I didn't think of it until I was actually editing and watching this. So I don't know, maybe I'll try that because I just kind of want to see. I don't think he actually can. I know that you can kill him earlier in the DLC when you first meet him and any other time you talk to him, of course, like with most NPCs. But Simon's pretty cool. He's a bro, so I don't ever try to fight him to get the bow blade before this point in the game. So we're actually going to go back and talk to him.
Who are you? I'm afraid I've made a bunch of things. Oh, I can hear the bell now. The beast-eyed assassin. He's after me. Again. And again. It never ends. Please. I need you to do something. This village is the true secret. Testament to the old sins. It feeds this hunter's nightmare. Please. Bring to an end the horror. So our forefathers sinned. We hunters cannot bear their weight forever. It isn't fair. It just isn't fair. Shrouded by night but with steady stride, colored by blood but always clear of mind, proud under the church. Beasts are a curse and curse is a shackle. Only ye, the true blades of the church.
So it's rather interesting that he gives you the key that he gives you. Because what we're about to do is we're actually going to go and open the cell and kill the person who is pursuing him. So if he has had the key the entire time and he wanted to end the pursuit, he really could have just gone, and he could have literally done that at any time. And speaking of pursuit, this is the guy who is pursuing him. And this is Brader. He uses a bloodletter, and he is extremely tough to fight. And you have to fight him, I think, 4 times. But we're not going to do that. We're going to fight him this one time, and then we're going to go kill him so that we don't have to fight him anymore. Because honestly, it just gets kind of annoying with him pursuing you. I didn't mean to get him caught on the wall like this, but once I noticed that he wasn't actually able to attack me here, I kind of thought like, well, okay, maybe we should just see about cheesing him, and the cheesing actually kind of worked. So if you ever have trouble with Brader in this specific area, you can probably do that and make it a little bit easier for yourself.
Look who's here. Welcome to my quarters. I've never entertained a guest before. Are you going to kill me? After all you've done, kill me? As if to right your wrongs. What is it? Aren't you going to kill me? Or perhaps beg my forgiveness? Well, leave off. What's done is done. What is it? Oh, well. is the nature of man.
So yeah, he just goes down in one hit, doesn't get up, try to fight you or anything like that, and you get the bloodletter from him, which is an insane weapon. I've never really used it against anything, and maybe I should actually try to use it at some point. But I have messed around with it a little bit, and holy crap, that thing is great. And you can see here, I'm assuming that Brader killed these guys when he invaded. Probably invaded before I actually got there, and then invaded again once I actually turned the corner there. But yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about Brader in general or what he's actually doing, but his armor is pretty sick, and even if you kill him and decide not to fight him during the invasions that he does to you, then you will pick the armor up in the spots where he would typically invade you at, and you'll see that in just a moment here, because he actually invades you around this area, and we'll be picking up one of the pieces of armor there. And the reason I choose to kill him is because he, like I said, invades you 4 times. And he uses lead elixir, so it's really hard to actually do any damage to him. And he can be pretty quick, and because he uses the bloodletter, he uses a very, very advanced weapon, and he's really, really good with it. At least when he's not getting stuck on a corner in the hallway back there. So we're going to come through this little area in just a moment. But I want to try to get that item that's down there. So we're going to try to explore this little area that's below all these rooftops. There's actually a really, really interesting enemy that I like in this area that summons lightning from the sky, and it will hit you pretty much anywhere that you go, unless you are inside of a house or you are like underneath a walkway or bridge or something like that. And I honestly think that that's just a pretty cool mechanic. It can kind of hit you out of nowhere, and yeah, it can, potentially be annoying, but I think that it's one of the things that makes this area kind of unique. Because there's not a whole lot of times, I think, in the game in general where someone's actually just kind of straight up using magic or arcane on you. Aside from maybe some fire stuff and the hunters who will use, lightning on their weapon or something like that. And this is actually the first time that I've ever gotten the Accursed Brew. I had never actually used it before this playthrough, and I'm really glad that I remember to get it because I think it's really cool. It doesn't have as good of a range as the Black Sky Eye or the Executioner's Gloves, but it does some really, really good damage. Now, as you can see right there, I got hit by the lightning, and that took about half of my health away. But you can see that the guy was still trying to actually hit me with it, but of course, because it's coming from the sky, it couldn't hit me because I was under that little bridge there. And that item that we picked up was the Beast Hide Garb, which is another part of Brader's armor set that we would have gotten had we actually decided to fight him. This is another part where he actually will invade you. And I do think that it was really cool that they decided to put him in the DLC, because the original game, as far as I can remember right now, I don't think had any kind of actual invading enemy come into your world. And that was sort of replaced by the hunters that you would fight randomly, Jura and the Bloody Crow of Canehurst and people like that. So I'm pretty sure that that was just sort of a replacement for it. And I had actually tried to hit this guy on the rooftop here with the Accursed Brew, but it didn't reach him. So you could see the difference between the range of these arcane spells here. And one of the interesting things about the Accursed Brew is it's actually sort of got a small AoE. So if you throw it at a group of enemies, it will actually hit all of the enemies that it touches, which really comes in handy in certain places. Really comes in handy for me in the Chalice dungeons when you get like a group of rats or something like that. And if I had thought to pull it out here, it probably would have helped over there with that little grouping of enemies. It isn't a huge AoE, so they sort of have to be kind of close together, but it still works out pretty well. And I actually tried to do the exploding barrels there with the Molotovs, but for some reason I completely forgot to actually change them, so didn't quite work out very well. And I don't think that the explosions would have hit those guys anyway, because they were a little bit too far away, and I just didn't realize that. So these little blue things here, I'm not 100% sure what they are, but I think that there's some speculation that they may be the cause parasites. And what I'm talking about when I say cause parasite is when Cause washed up on the shore here and the people in the village started worshiping it, what happened was they ended up getting infected by a parasite that was carried on Cause's body. And that is actually what started mutating these people. That is how they basically became the fishmen and the shark giants and the fish dogs and all that kind of stuff. At least that is what I'm sort of remembering. If that's wrong, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure that that's sort of what happened. And of course, when the hunters came, what they did was basically experiments on some of these villagers that lived here and cut their heads open to search for eyes, because that was the whole point of what Willem thought was actually going to happen if they ascended. And maybe the hunters thought that these may have been ascended peoples or something like that. I hope that I'm not getting too much of that wrong, but from what I read and what I understand about what actually happened in the fishing village, that sounds pretty right to me, even though it is still pretty much just speculation. So I'm sorry if just in general I've gotten any of the lore wrong that I've talked about in this series, but this stuff is really complicated sometimes, and it really is hard to remember all of the things that go on in this game and all of the backstory for all the areas, all the characters, and all that. It's surprisingly deep. Dark Souls, I felt, was pretty deep in certain respects, but Bloodborne really takes the cake when it comes to deep lore. I mean, it really went out of its way to develop its characters and its factions and what actually went on, and it's really fascinating to me. This is some of my favorite lore of any of the Souls games, and I really appreciate the time and the effort that this company puts into just simple little things in the backstories of their characters and world development and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Miyazaki definitely deserves a whole lot of praise and a whole lot of credit for everything that he does in any of these games, but the team of people that he has working for him that do the boss design and the world design, just some of the best people in the industry, and I really think that they deserve as much credit as Miyazaki gets for all of this stuff. And no one, I think, would argue that point at all. And I know I've spent a lot of this playthrough praising certain aspects of this game and certain aspects of other Souls games and kind of comparing and contrasting and everything, but This stuff really, really speaks to me. And it hopefully doesn't sound super weird or anything like that, but I have a strong emotional connection to all of these games. Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 especially. Demon Souls for sure, I have a strong emotional connection with, and even this game to a certain extent, even though I honestly kind of hated Bloodborne when it first came out. I didn't think it was that great. Coming off of Dark Souls 2, which is one of my favorite Souls games, it just didn't hit me in the same way that the first three Souls games did. So maybe hate is a strong word to use, because I probably didn't actually hate it, but it was one of those games that I didn't immediately want to go back and play like I did the other three. And of course, the years went on, and I revisited it a couple times and really started to enjoy it a whole lot more. But I think this past year, during the COVID pandemic and everything like that in 2020, was when I really, really revisited this and really started to appreciate it for what it was, and really started to go deeper into the lore and deeper into what was actually going on. And I really developed an emotional connection with it based on where I was at the point in my life back in August of 2020 and September of 2020 when I did my first playthrough of it in like 3 years or something like that. And I say my first playthrough, but I think I really mean my first full playthrough, because I had played it once before and really, really got into it again. I want to say in 2019, towards the end of that year. But like I said, I didn't do a full playthrough and I didn't play the DLC. In fact, I hadn't actually even touched the DLC until I think, yeah, September of 2020 is when I actually first played the DLC of this game. So if I had insinuated any earlier in the playthrough that I might have played it sooner than that, I apologize, but as I sit here and think about it, I just realized that I never actually played this DLC until last year in September. So maybe it was the DLC that really made me have a strong emotional connection to this game. But anyways, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening to me ramble on about a bunch of stuff. I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.